You're familiar with the batch resizing, and I'll try and show you that today too, because that was part of this agent's problem. They didn't have the photos in the correct size. But before I get to that, I'm going to just show you some basic editing in both the programs and what you can do and what you can't do. From under the image file menu in View, I can resize, resample. As far as rotation is concerned, there are a lot of issues with crooked photos. Obviously, you have sellers that are new to this, and maybe the lines aren't straight as they could be. This program, I'm not a fan of how it works. I can go to rotate left and rotate right. That's going to do a full flip, but a custom fine rotation, it's just tough to see in this window how things work. But I have a little drop down arrow where I can go up and down and make that straighten, lit it up a little bit in that image. And when I'm done and click OK, it's going to change it's going to put a little frame around that picture and be crooked, but I can crop that frame back out again. So had I adjusted it a lot, there'd be a white frame around there. In View, I can just click and hold my little plus arrow or my plus sign, stretch it out, and then hit the crop tool, and I would crop that, crop the difference out from the straightening option. So you can rotate slightly and then crop the difference off of it. I'm gonna see how I crop on here. For some reason, I'm not finding my crop tool. There it is. There you go. And then I would chop off the difference. And I think that is, that's just how you do it in View. And in Photoscape, I think you have a little bit more options available. Rotate arbitrary. It gives you a nice grid layout on the page. And I have an actual dial here that I can just turn the whole image nicely back and forth. Now, what you can't do here is pull in the corners. So if you've got the bowing out of an image, like from a wide angle lens where the top portion on the left and right is bending out farther than it should be, unfortunately, these programs, neither one of them will allow you to grab the corners and stretch out. You need a little higher end software for that. I personally use Adobe Lightroom. It does an amazing job at that. I can do it in Photoshop also. I can literally grab the corners of the photo and skew them right out until those lines are perfect on the right and left. So you'll see in this case, all I'm really doing, and I'm looking at the center line in the grid here, and I'm going to try and run that center line up with a straight line in the center of that photo or something close to it, because this is kind of tilting on a center axis, right? So unfortunately, with this program and with the free stuff, all I could find was one that would do to that point. And the other advantage of that is I don't need to recrop it. It crops it automatically after I've adjusted it. So it will at least take the images up a step to just straighten them. Unfortunately, you can't pull in the sides to get all the outside lines. You see how these outside lines are still at an angle. Other software, paid software, would allow me to grab that and pull it right in like that until all the lines were straight, and then crop that new image. So unfortunately, you can't get that in a free program. Down here in brightness and color, if I just open up this window, that's the next biggest thing you're going to be dealt with is brightness. And I would, when this window comes up, I would look at exposure first. And remember, with these sliders, you want to be really careful with them. You can't go like just throw it right to the top. It's just going to blow out the picture. So it's just going to be slight increments. You're going to get what you can get from this free software, and that's about it. So you'll notice that as I go out from here, you'll get a little bit of a almost washed out effect to the photo in the results. And that has a little bit to do with the fact that one, I've kind of exaggerated a little bit. I'd pull back a little bit on that. But also, that's what a paid program is going to give you better. If I went into Photoshop or Lightroom or a full featured photo program and I pulled brighten or exposure up, I'm going to get a much cleaner brightness going on in that image than I am with a free program. The free program is limited what it could do to those pixels, so it's not going to give as polished a look, but it'll probably be somewhat of an improvement, especially on a house that's like, say, really dark. So the seller got the pictures all sent to you that were really bad, then you might want to take it up. It's either way, it's going to be an improvement on whatever it is that was sent to them. That would be about as to the extent that I would do. Maybe a little contrast adjustment if you want to sharpen up after, sharpen up those blacks after you've washed out the image a little bit. And again, you're noticing I'm just barely nudging those little sliders. You're not running up and down. You're just going to blow it out one way or the other. It's a more subtle change on all of them. As far as color is concerned, that would be the only other thing that I would think about editing. Let me see what I have for color here. Deepen, darken. Strangely enough, I'd rather do that one in View because I think it has the RGB better covered there. Let me see if I can get into anything else here that would. Okay, let's try it in View. Color corrections. Yeah, see, I prefer, it's funny, I prefer View's controls for color. When would I affect color? You may get some yellow cast or blue cast images. It could be depending on the camera that's being used. That could really throw off a picture. The only time I would ever suggest editing color is if the picture is just gone. In other words, it's really blue or it's really yellow, and it's just not going to work unless you can do that. And then I would use View. And you could do this image by image. So I don't want you to think that you have to go through every single photo with View and then every single photo with Photoscape. I would look at the individual image. If I found an image that was really blue, it's usually caused by a lot of fluorescent light in the picture and no external light. So it always, obviously, it's going to help that the agent gives the sellers good instructions of when to take pictures, what time of the day. But it's going to happen in basements and things like that where you're depending completely on the internal light and no outside light coming in. That's when you're going to get your color casts. You'll get a yellow cast from incandescent bulbs and a blue cast from fluorescent bulbs. What's cool about View is I can just slide the slider. So if it's red, if it's an orange color, I'll pull back on the red and see how it turns a little bit more blue or a little red. So I'd pull the orange out with the R and I'd pull the blue out with the blue, with the B at the bottom. It's going to turn it green. So you're going to have the same thing, very, very subtle. A completely blue hue picture could probably be resolved in 1 or 2 clicks here. Like I'm talking maybe 3 notches on the blue. We'll take it out immediately. So it does a really good job for any program. Mostly color correction is good on even the free programs you're dealing with here. So that would be probably rotating, straightening pictures, and a little bit of brightness is probably going to be the biggest things that you're going to be dealing with. Exterior photos particularly, it depends on how extreme it is. If you have a crooked interior shot, I'm not a big fan of anything crooked, but I would say an exterior shot when the seller stood in front of the house and the entire house looks like it's on the side of a mountain and it's sliding down the side of the mountain. I mean, that definitely needs some straightening. Try and get those images up to straighten. And then the interior shots, it all depends on how bad of a job that they did. I wouldn't go in to get to absolute perfection, but if they look really, really crooked, then I would take the time to go through and straighten them up. And just as a little repeat, I like the way that I can rotate better in Photoscape. I think Photoscape was the one that because I have the grid. I also liked the way that I can handle brightness in Photoscape. Not as big of a fan as the way that they do color, but you can play around with this to see if you can get it to work for color also, if you don't want to flip back and forth between the 2 programs. And then View, I like the way that I do color corrections better in View than I do in Photoscape. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of general advice for that. Now, the second problem that the images had was the size. The agent uploaded them MLS and they didn't look right. They were squished, squeezed, pixelated, just it wasn't right. A lot of people don't realize that there are still minimum photo requirements and maximum photo requirements. A lot of websites allow you to just upload photos any size. And we got spoiled doing that, thinking that we can upload photos any size we want. Problem is, for cell phone photos especially have increased in resolution so much and so dramatically in the last few years that the cell phone images are gigantic now, that just like they were, 15 years ago in our first digital cameras, as they got larger and larger. Remember back when we would open an agent's photo and all you'd see is their eye full screen from one side to the other because they didn't realize how giant the actual image was. You're starting to see that now from cell phone images. So in View, I can go to Image, Resize, Resample. And what I usually use as my gauge is RealComp 2048. RealComp's new required photo size for their images is 2048, 2048 pixels. Seems like a strange number. It's just the number that they their system is accepting. I use that number when resizing for all MLSs because it's generally a good size. If you are in a particularly different MLS, I'm trying to scan down the participant list to see if anyone's in a different list, check with your MLS. It's always helpful to know the exact size that they want. It's going to change the way that everything happens throughout. But I mean, generally 2000 seems to be around an acceptable size for most MLSs, and a size that's still going to look good on Zillow and the other websites that have a tendency to show even larger versions of photos is really why they increased to 2048 in the first place. So when I talk 2048, I mean width, and no, I don't determine width based on horizontal switch to height. I would if I batch processed, but in this case, I do 2048. If it was a vertical, I'd put the height as 2048. Should be fine. Also, it's going to be a vertical down the middle either way. It's going to have black on either side if it's a vertical. What I'm finding, another thing that you might want to mention to agents, a lot of sellers are holding their phones vertically when they shouldn't be. They should take the majority of photos in their house should be taken horizontally. The only time you should flip the phone, this is for photos, not video. The only time you should flip the phone vertically is in half baths when you have a very little amount of space, or a bathroom if you want to show the floor and the ceiling all in one shot. And if you tilted it correctly. I mean, I could go on and on about giving advice of how to take the right angles, but I'm seeing a lot more verticals than necessary, put it that way. So you might want to just get the word out that that's one of the biggest problems we're seeing from seller photos, and give them an idea. Preserve aspect ratio has to be checked. That means no matter how much I change the width by, it's going to automatically calculate the height at the same ratio. If you didn't have that checked, it would only adjust the width and leave the height, which would mess up the entire photo. It would look terrible and completely stretched and out of place. So you always want to keep that checked. So once I have this set, I'm going to click OK. It's one thing to resize a photo in a photo program, but as of right now, that photo only exists at that size temporarily in my photo program. It's not permanent until I say File, Save. So until I save that file, it's not going to stay as save as. I have to give it a different name because you always want to keep the original file with photos. You don't want to rewrite over top of that in case you have to go back and change it again. So it would always be file, save as, and I'd save that to my computer and then move on to the next photo. That's if I want to do each individual photo or each photo individually. What I love the most about OrphanView is instead I can go to File, Batch Conversion, Rename, and I can run the entire folder through a resize process instead of doing those individual images. And I'm going to show you real quick how that works. I have folder of photos on my desktop called 2048. I'll move it over to the screen, kind of the bottom, so you'll be able to see that a little bit. Oops. I can minimize Photoscape here. It doesn't want me to move that window because this batch window's up, so I'm going to resize that. So here's my folder full of photos right from the seller. If I open up this folder, what I want to do is then go down and right click and create another folder within that folder called resized images. If you're resizing for multiple places, different sizes, then you might want to create two separate resize folders and run two batches instead, which is totally fine. It's an option if you have to for social media sites or whatever you would have to do for the resizing process. So there's my two windows: File, Batch, Conversion, Rename. Just make sure that's the right one. Yeah. First time you see this, it looks confusing, but it's actually really easy. Leave this on Batch Conversion. Down here in Output Format, we're going to leave it on JPEG. For options, we can do a little constriction here as far as compression to 80%. Nowadays, it's not too big of a deal. Sites can handle a lot. You could even go up to 90, probably be fine if you went all the way up at the top. It's not necessary. It's just going to make the file size bigger. A little bit of compression doesn't hurt as far as making it a little quicker to open. I wouldn't touch anything else in here and just click OK. That just says the output format. Down here where it says use advanced options for bulk resize, you click on the advanced button. And in here is where you're going to set the size of all the images. Width, I'm going to type in 2048. Height, you could do the same thing. I'm just going to leave it. Set new size, set one or both sides to. So I've set this way, it's going to deal with those verticals fine, just like that. Preserve aspect ratio is checked down here, and use resample function for better quality is checked. That's it. I'm going to click OK. So now it knows to change the photos to 2048. It's asking next, what photos? So over in this section here, it's going to allow me to browse for the photos that I want to change. So I'm going to go to my desktop. That's where that folder was. 2048 is the folder. It's full of photos. So I'm just going to select that and I hit add all down below. Nope, I have to open it. So I'm going to go back. I thought I could do it right from there, but I have to open it first, then say add all. And there's all the images. No, actually, that's too many too. Try that one more time. All right. So I selected all the images and I added them all to this batch. All right. Add all was working as once I came into the folder, I just went into add all. I didn't have to select them. Actually, I did that just to make sure. So that added them all down here below. Now all I need to do is choose the folder that I want all those resized images to go into. Right here where it says output folder for results, I'm just going to hit browse. I'm going to go back to that 2048 folder, expand it, go to resize, and click OK. So all I did was set the size that I want them to be up here in the output format, use advanced options, clicked advanced, put in the 2048. Over here, I loaded the photos, so I browsed for where the photos were on my computer, clicked add all down below, so they all came down here as links. And then I browsed to determine which folder I want all those new resized images to go into. And now all I have to do is hit start batch down below here and watch how fast that works. That's 55 images in that folder. And we're all done. So that's all, exit batch. That's all those photos, 55 images were done that fast. If I go back here now and double click on that folder and go into resized, there's all the resized images. At this point, if you wanted to check, as just to make a quick check to make sure you did everything correctly, if you right click on a file in a Windows machine and go down to properties or get info on a Mac, will give you the same thing. It should give you the dimensions of the photo, depending on where you do that. And this isn't giving it to me. Maybe advanced would. No, I guess it won't give me that. It gives me the photo size. Oh, there you go. Under these tabs up here at the top, if you switch to details, you should get the actual dimensions. So if you right click on an image after the resize, go to properties, go to the details tab in that properties window, and you'll see that it's sized correctly to 2048. You might want to check one or two, make sure it's all set. So now on my computer, on my desktop, there's a folder called 2048. Inside that folder, there's a folder called Resized, and all these pictures are ready to be uploaded to the MLS. So now you can do this for the agent, go into RealComp, log in as them, upload them all, or you can send them back to the agent all set, all signed, or all resized and ready to upload. Now, this has brought up the next problem, and that was how to transfer all of the images from the seller's computer to the agent's computer, how to transfer all the images from the agent's computer to my computer or to your computer. I would say attempt an email first. If you end up having to send 17 different emails to get all the photos over, or if a seller does that to the agent, create a Dropbox account, go into a OneDrive account, create a folder, load all the photos up, and share that link back to whoever needs to see it. Most people should know how to do Dropbox these days. If the seller can't figure out how to do that, then have the agent at least do that. So if the seller has sent multiple emails to the agent, you can walk the agent through logging into Dropbox and uploading them to Dropbox. If the agent doesn't have a Dropbox account, you could share your Dropbox account with them temporarily, change your Dropbox password, send them the information, let them upload images to the Dropbox, go back in and download them. That allows you to then go back into your Dropbox and upload all the resized images to them and send them the link back to download, unless they're telling you to go ahead and load it in the MLS for you, for them. All right. And that's one of those things that you just have to try in order to get it. I kind of went through that quickly. If you had a chance to write down the options, this session is being recorded. There's already a recorded version, I think, a link to a recorded version, possibly on Scott's Tech Tips. If not, I'll send out this when it's done. So that you can just watch the video and pause it exactly at the batch processing part where I'm putting in all the information and just replicate that same information and run the batch. So generally, as a general rule, you say, why would I be resizing images? If the agent uploaded the MLS and the agent says it just doesn't look good, the biggest reason for that, if the images weren't blurry. So we saw that these images weren't pixelated and blurry already to start with. If they were, they're only going to get worse when we upload them to any place. But if they're clear, crisp pictures here, and we upload them to the MLS and they don't look quite right, it's because they're probably too big in most cases or too small. We also have a size limit that when it's too small, Zillow will not even put that image up on their website, which means we'll send them the photos in our data feed. Zillow just marks it as too small to post. And then the photos don't go through at all. So in that situation, you might want to have the agent call the seller and say, we need bigger versions. I don't know how you took these, because you can't really resize images up. You can just resize images down. Resizing them up makes a mess of them. It makes them stretched out, pixelated and blurry if you're going up. So I wouldn't really be doing much more editing than that. Depending on the software that you have on your computer, if you do have, I know some may have versions of Photoshop, old versions of Photoshop, or may have better programs available to them. Those programs will allow you to do everything that I showed you and then some. And all you have to do is look in those menus and across the top, and you'll find how to do it in whatever program it is that you're working with. I wouldn't spend too much time on it. I think a lot of people know right now that they're dealing with seller photos. So you're going to get a limit of what quality you're going to get, right? But I've been surprised, and I've been joking around with agents on the webinar saying, it's interesting now because we will go back a ways. We had agents taking pictures with their cell phones. And I honestly tell you that I think the sellers are taking better pictures with their cell phones than the agents did, which makes sense. It's their house, right? So they're going to be even more careful. I've been getting good pictures generally coming through. Now, when it comes to video, or first of all, any issues that you come across that you can't solve, call me, send me an email, say, look, I got some seller photos. The agent's really struggling. They don't know what to do. Can you call them? I can take care of all that for you. So just, we're only asking you to do what you can do, and what you can't do, hand off to me. That'll still save me a little bit of time on just handling those. But really what I've been dealing with mostly is transfer issues and then sizing issues. I'm not editing the photos because I just don't have time to do any major editing on the images. Another option available is Box Brownie. Box Brownie is a website. They will process photos at, I think, $1 something a photo. So if they want really intense stuff done, like above and beyond what you can do, they can pay to have that done. And they'll even do virtual stuff too. Let me just bring up their website so you can see. And that's what I would do if they're looking for something more. I had an agent call yesterday about old pictures from one seller, and they wanted the new seller. They couldn't get in the house. They wanted to use the old pictures, so they wanted virtual staging, where they would swap the photos that are in the current living room with the old photos, and Box Brownie would actually do it for them, could do it for them with virtual staging and moving things around. So the site does a ton of things, but if I just scroll down right on the homepage, it's boxbrownie.com. Right, the very first option here is image enhancement, $1.60, $1.60 per image, but they'll do virtual staging. They'll put a little night sky in and do a virtual dusk twilight shot, item removal, all kinds of stuff with the images. This is where I would direct an agent if it got to the point where the simple stuff that you're doing isn't enough, and they really want to take it to the next level, right? Next thing I want to talk about just real quick, this is going to be a real quick session because I'm not going to take too long of your time, is video. I got a question about video in the beginning. Does the software work for video? If you really are intent on helping people with video and you have a Mac, I would get iMovie. If you have a Mac at home, you probably already have iMovie. iMovie is a very inexpensive program. I don't even know what it costs to download if you don't have it. It's the simplest video editing software, period. If you don't have a Mac, go to Google and search for free video software. Whenever I do that, I get Filmora. I always search first for Google and say best videos, free video software, stuff like that. Go ahead and run those searches yourself if you'd like, if you really want some software. But Filmora always comes up as the top for some reason. Download it if you really want to start editing video on your own. The request that I've been getting from agents as far as video editing is concerned, and I'm limiting what I'll do for somebody because I'm not going to edit a giant epic feature for an agent on 7 different video platforms. As far as I'm gone is a seller connected with 4 separate videos, and the agent wanted them all put together into one. I did that for them. I then sent the video back because the other side of things is now the seller's shooting the video. What do we do for a soundtrack? The first video that came through to me from the other seller that I work with had all this real music from the radio on the slideshow that they had created. Like, well, you can't do that. Sorry, that's all royalty. You can only use royalty-free music, and that's not fun to go searching for royalty-free music. For those of you that are comfortable with royalty-free music, great, you can do that for them or direct them to do that. But it's easier for an agent to do a narration then at that point. And what I did was had the agent just send me the narration through their phone because the iPhone will capture audio files. So he was able to do a walkthrough talking through there and send it to me, and I can put that on the bottom of the video. I can extract the sound that was on that video because you could hear the seller walking around. I pulled that whole thing off and put the narration track in. So that's not something I would offer, but if you get to that level and there's only 1 or 2 a week coming into you like that, just send them to me. It's not worth you going through all the problems to do that. If you are very much interested in video editing and you love doing that kind of stuff and you have the ability to do it, then have at it. It's great. Download a free program and play with it. Go to Google and search the best free video editing software for whatever platform or machine you have at home, and download something. Be careful when you do that. I would click on multiple articles first because when you get those best of lists, you may get people writing based on being paid for by those software companies. So really do a good search if you're going to use something other than a top name that everyone's talking about. And then just play with it. Most video programs are pretty easy. You drag and drop all the clips, push them all together, cut them at any point in time and slide them all together into one and export. It's really that easy once you get to the hang of it. But adding music and things like that or text coming in might be a little more difficult and stuff you have to get the hang of. I don't think we need to be going to that level right now unless, like I said, you're into that kind of stuff and you want to take it to that level. What's most important, I think, is educating the agents. And this is the biggest problem that I've found. Every agent that's connected to me having to do with a seller video is a complete lack of understanding of one basic premise of video. When someone sends you a video file, it's like, let's say an example of a video file is a .mov file or a .mp4 file, not an MP3, an MP4 file. It's a video file. So it would come through to your computer and you would save it as a file, just like a PDF file or any other file in your computer. Just make an example of this. So it'd be just like any other file on your computer. So here's a PDF file. So the seller sends you their video and the agent downloads it to their computer, say, okay, I got this video now. And they go to RealComp and they think they can upload that video to RealComp. That's the biggest block I'm seeing is the agent's not understanding that you can't share video. You have to upload it somewhere in order for it to be hosted somewhere. And once you do that, you then get a link for that video. So until you can upload it to a website, you can't really do much with a video. I have been mentioning that with a seller video in Zoom, if that's all you had and the seller did not want to do any, oops, let's see if I got a stop button here. Seller didn't want to do a live walkthrough. They just wanted to do a video instead. You could do that and bring in that video into your virtual slideshow or into your virtual tour or virtual open house. So here's an example of what I mean by that. I'm in Zoom right now and I'm sharing my desktop. So the agent could share their desktop in a virtual open house and play that actual video file for the open house, for the people that are in the virtual open house, because they're sharing their desktop. That's all you could do with an actual video file saved on your computer, okay? The right thing to do is if you wanted to get this video out to the MLS and then in turn on One Place and on Zillow and Realtor.com, is that video file, say the MP4 file like this here. I'll show you that file right now that we're dealing with. That's what it looks like. Let's see what format it's in. There's an MP4. So this file would have to be uploaded to YouTube. They would have to go and create a YouTube channel and upload that file to YouTube. Once they have the video up on YouTube or Vimeo or any other video file software site, then they would just capture the address out of that from that video, and they can attach that to RealComp, attach that to the MLS, to Zillow, to Realtor.com, everywhere else that it goes. So that's the biggest problem I've been seeing, is just a lack of understanding of what they have to do to get a video online, all right? So what I've done is told agents that you've got to go to YouTube and create a YouTube channel. And they're like, what? And so it's very difficult for them. It's an easy process. If you have a Gmail account, you can create a YouTube channel. My next Thursday's webinar is going to be on how to create YouTube channels. So they'll be able to do that. But in the meantime, I've just been saying, send me the video. If you don't care with that video is loaded on a YouTube channel called Scott Gaffin, I will load it up on my channel and send you the link, because I'm not an active agent. So it's just going to say Scott Gaffin. They're going to watch the video anyway. It'll just be added. And that's my corporate YouTube account, not corporate, but that's all I load up on there is corporate stuff and videos. So there's nothing else on there. So it saves me having to walk 100 agents over the phone on how to create a YouTube channel. So that's another option. So if you're stuck with agents in your office or stuck with a video they don't know what to do with, have them create a channel on YouTube and upload the video, which will then give them a link to share everywhere. If they can't do that themselves and you're struggling, you can upload it to your own YouTube channel or create an office YouTube channel or send them to me. And if they are willing, I'll load it on my YouTube channel just so that they can have a link back so they can share that video on the listing itself, because otherwise it's just a file on their computer and they're not going to be able to do anything with it. As far as video editing, it's your choice if you want to help them in editing, if you have any software. If you don't, direct them to me. Just send them directly to me. Tell them up front, Scott's not going to do your whole video for you. He's going to help you get to the point where you need it to get it up there and live. But I'm not going to spend hours editing seller videos for agents. It's just not, I don't have time for that. They would have to have someone else do it. Ultimately, the final person that I edited this week, when helping with the audio, he replied back the next day, thanks, I got it. My son was able to help me. I had no idea he could edit video. So ask around your house. You never know. Or have them ask around their house. Their kids might have video editing software on their machines and be doing it all the time and be completely comfortable with, especially just something as simple as sticking 4 separate videos together into one video and uploading it to YouTube. I'm sure lots of people, young kids today, would know how to do that process themselves also. So that's all I have for you. Anything else above and beyond this, feel free to contact me. I'm running webinars every week showing them how to do virtual stuff with Zoom and their cell phones and all that good stuff, and then creating YouTube channel. If there's anything you guys are getting questions on that you might want to see a class on, or if you're getting direct questions from just your office and you want a separate office class just for you, let me know. I'm doing as many Zoom meetings as I can fit into a week. Just send me a message and let me know. All right. I didn't want this to take too long because it's Friday. You guys all need to go relax because I'm sure you've worked hard this week. Send me a message if you want right now in chat for questions, or email me after today, or call me anytime. Thank you very much for your time, guys. Hope everybody's safe. Have a great day. Great weekend.